Hey everybody, I am John Malek Ahmadi, Assistant Professor of Instruction in the Sociology program in the larger EPS school. This is the Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences there at UT Dallas. I wanted to take just a few minutes today to discuss the program a little bit and introduce you to sociology and give you a taste of what you might hear and see in one of the classes that you take at this institution. So first of all, when we're talking about sociology, social institutions are really big. We're trying to figure out how humans are going to behave, not individuals really. We're interested in larger groups. And so social institutions really help us understand this. And five of the major ones are family, law, education, economy, and religion. We all fit into these social institutions in one way, shape, or form. And these social institutions have been here long before we were here and will exist long after we're gone. In order to change those institutions, significantly, it takes collective power. Usually one person won't be able to do it. Okay? And so today what I'll do is I'll talk a little about my specialty, which is medical sociology and mental health. So I teach classes, a variety of classes at UT Dallas, whether it's introduction to sociology or public health, global health. I also do a life cycle class. Mental health and illness has been one of my favorites. It's one of the first classes I taught at UT Dallas many years ago. And I really enjoy it. And so I kind of want to give you a taste of that here today. So the big idea here when we're talking about mental health is just like anything else in sociology, we look at inequality. And we know that there are some groups that have first of all, a heightened chance of becoming mentally ill. And then once they are mentally ill, some groups have a better chance at getting better faster than others. Now, about a fifth or one of every 5 Americans each year are diagnosed with some sort of mental disorder. So if you are not mentally ill, it's pretty certain that someone in your life is mentally ill, whether it's something like simple depression or something more difficult like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or maybe obsessive compulsive disorder that's so bad that someone can't even leave the house. Now, what we really focus on and tend to focus on as sociologists in terms of examining mental health is not just genetics. This is more the biological side. We don't discount that. Genetics is really important. And what I say is mental illness is like this light switch in the back of your head. So if everything's going nice and smooth, you don't have that much stress in your life, you're not really that likely to manifest a mental disorder. But stress is that big variable. We all have stress in our lives, some people more than others, some different types of stress than others. And so it's that social environment we know causes quite a bit of stress in our lives, and that can then turn that light switch on. There's all sorts of evidence showing, for example, that folks who do have schizophrenia are more likely to have an episode when they're in a very stressful or turbulent time in their lives. Now, this is a great class for any of you to take, it's really important we focus on mental illness for a number of reasons. One, over the last 3 years in this country, in the United States, our life expectancy has actually been declining, and this is a direct consequence of our opioid addiction rates and suicide rates. We have to take that step back and say, well, what's going on here? Isn't this supposed to be the best country in the world? I mean, we're told this all the time. And yet, why are we harming ourselves at such fast rates? Why are we in such bad health, not only physically, but mentally as well? And one of the big keys is we're isolated. We're a lot more isolated than we were before. These things right here, you can see it, the cell phone, they make us feel like we're more connected with people, but when we're scrolling through our feed, we're usually alone and we're ignoring other people around us. Just a couple of years ago, the UK had to actually appoint a loneliness minister to address the degree of loneliness. And so when we go on these feeds, we're looking for these dopamine hits and we want to feel good. But if we're connecting with other people around us in our social environment, we don't need these things. We don't need to be constantly connected to these. And so it's a big shift we need to take here. Okay, some other issues we talk quite extensively about are socioeconomic status. This is a 3-part measure of education, income, and occupation. The idea is the more education I have, typically the better job I get and the more money I'm going to make, which means we know in this country, and unfortunately a lot of cases, our healthcare insurance is tied with our job. But if I have a good job, I'm most likely getting some subsidized healthcare insurance for myself and my family. And so if I do have a mental illness, I can afford to go and see a psychiatrist. I can get that referral if needed as well. Now, and I can pay for the medication if I'm going to need, an SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or something maybe a little more stronger. along with psychotherapy sessions. But if I don't have insurance, I'm less likely to go to the doctor for anything because I can't afford to pay out of pocket for that. And I certainly wouldn't be able to afford the medication without the discount we get for having the insurance with it. And so these are big issues. We had Obamacare, which allowed more people into the system, but it just allowed more people to pay too much for healthcare insurance. We really need a universalized healthcare plan in order to address the needs of folks in this country. Also, this is very sociological. We look at race and gender along with social class. These are three of the main variables we examine when we're looking at behavior of any kind. This is not to say that people of different racial groups are fundamentally any different than one another. We've been tricked into thinking that is the case. But because we've shaped the world and allowed more privilege and power to certain racial groups, more so than others, we do have to examine race and understand that by being a member of a certain racial group, I may not be able to get certain jobs. I may be treated differently by law enforcement in the criminal justice system. Unfortunately, we don't have as much contact with people who are different than us than we should have. Right? And so help seeking in terms of gender is also really important, particularly for mental health. It turns out that women are much more likely to go and say, hey, I have this problem and I need some help for it. Remember, the way we socialize and train men is that you shut off, you close down, you don't show anybody vulnerability. You have to act tough and strong. And with our opioid rates and suicide rates, something's got to give. We have to redefine masculinity in a way that allows us to have more healthy outcomes. And doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something to change is insane. And we really need to keep turning the corner and look at drug addiction, for example, as a public health concern, not a criminal issue. If I put someone in jail because they're addicted to a drug, it's probably not going to help them stop using the drug. We need to provide resources so that person can get better faster. So it's just a little snapshot of what you might see in some sociology courses, particularly a mental health class. I'd love to have you in my courses at UT Dallas, and feel free to reach out to me. You can Google my name. You can find my email pretty easily. So thank you for your time today.
We hope you enjoyed the guest lecture video from our esteemed UT Dallas faculty. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Maxwell, Assistant Provost in the Office of Community College Relations and a faculty member in Public and Nonprofit Management. I would like to briefly share information about UT Dallas. UTD is just shy of 30,000 students, yet we pride ourselves on providing opportunities for all our students to connect with faculty, as you might find at much smaller institutions. In fact, almost 80% of our undergraduate classes have fewer than 50 students. UTD also offers scholarships for transfer students. We encourage you to learn more through our virtual and in-person campus tours, Scholars Day, and Preview Fridays. Students who may be considering UT Dallas can also schedule a pre-admissions counseling appointment, and we hope you explore our guaranteed tuition plan, the Comic Connection. We look forward to seeing you at the University of Texas at Dallas.